going to take you for a day out on the island of Lismore off Scotland's west coast. Just a short ferry trip from Oban, and here are some of the things that we're going to go see. In case you don't know me, my name is Graham, and I'm here to bring you Scotland's stories, from popular epic tales to the hidden histories, folklore and legends from around our wee country. If that sounds like something you might enjoy, don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out on the next one. Lismore is one of the often overlooked Inner Hebrides, found right in the middle of Loch Linnhe, and in the days when boats were the easiest way to travel, this was a very accessible place. You can reach it by Columba ferry from Oban in less than 1 hour if you bring in a car, but there's also a foot passenger option from Port Appin to the north of the island. You might want that car when you get here though, since Lismore is 10 miles long and there's a good amount to see. Now, I'll apologise in advance for two things. One, Molly the Labrador couldn't come along with me on this trip since there's just too much walking for her old legs. And two, even though it was sunny, it was really windy on Lismore, so you might hear lots of that when I'm talking to the camera. Leaflets about Lismore, postcards, mugs, wee honesty tub for payment. I think I'm okay just now. Well, I've made it onto Lismore. In Gaelic, that means the Great Garden, because this island is particularly fertile compared to those around anyway. I think that's got something to do with all the underlying limestone, but I am no geologist. Now, it's a special place. It's a special religious centre. The Saint Moluag. I'm going to go and see his old cathedral later on. And it was, well, special for lots of other reasons. It was right at the heart, right in the middle of Argyll and the Isles. You know, when you imagine everything was connected by the sea hundreds of years ago, rather than the sea being the barrier that we see it today. You know, the island right in the middle, very important, very strategic. I'm going to have to look at my map because I think I might be turning off here through this field, possibly. Just gone around Loch Linnhe, on my way to find an Iron Age broch. I was heading out to Tirefour Broch, high up on the east side of Lismore. It's not a difficult walk, although I made it hard on myself by accidentally climbing a big mound when the metal stile for crossing the wall was away down there. Eventually you'll come to the ruins of an old township, practically in the shadow of the Broch, no doubt built using some of those old stones. Now imagine what life must have been like right here, looking up to the ghosts of the past. The sheep appears to be stuck within the fence, but that's sheep for you. Now this community wasn't cleared like lots of communities were because of what we call the Highland clearances removed for sheep. They were actually apparently removed because they all died from a terrible typhus outbreak. So just imagine how brutal life must have been for folk like that. You know, something like that starts, there's not much way of getting around it. always find places like this poignant, very sad. Just the thought that, you know, Lismore used to have, I think at its peak, about 1,500 people living here. I mean, that's maybe too much for it to have sustained in the long term. But, you know, in the space of less than 100 years, a couple of generations, and it went from 1,500 to a few hundred. And places like this were just abandoned, just empty. It's very sad. Keep your feet dry, people. Nice and sheltered. Now, I love brochs. They're uniquely Scottish. You only find them in Scotland, and mostly, I mean, this is quite west and quite southern almost for a broch. Most of them are found north, Caithness, Sutherland, Shetland, Orkney, but also you do find them lots around the Western Isles as well, so it's not surprising you find it in Lismore, really. Anyway, they're built, they're around 2,000 years old, they're Iron Age, so that's a few hundred years either side of the year zero. They often get called Pictish brochs, but they weren't actually built by the Picts. The Picts, these are the ancestors of the people who became known as the Picts, although Pict is obviously a word that we give them. Anyway, that's a whole kettle of fish to get into sometime. All you need to know is they were built 2,000 years ago, dry stone, so no mortar at all. They're usually double walled, so it's quite hard to see in this one, but there is two different internal walls which gives them nice insulation from the wind, and inside those two walls there would be a spiral staircase, a staircase that goes round inside. Now, we don't really know what brochs were used for. You know, were they like early castles with one sort of big, great noble, great leader, great chief living in them, or were they more like town halls or community centres, you know, where everybody had access? Were they kind of a mixture of the two? Was it just one for every community? We don't know yet. I don't know if you can hear me, but look at it. Right in the middle of Lismore, you'll find the Gaelic Heritage Centre, and it's an ideal place to really start your trip around the island. It's only open during the tourist season, but I was allowed a look inside, even though the displays weren't actually set up yet. Now, when it comes to responsible tourism, I think we should all contribute to the communities that we visit, so pick up something from one of the local craftspeople in the shop here, grab a coffee or lunch from the cafe. It just won the award for the best island cafe in Scotland, so you're doing yourself a favour. But this is really the heart of the island, the heart of the community, so definitely give it a visit. From the centre, I got picked up by Iris from Explore Lismore. They are a local tour company and taxi service, so if you didn't bring your own wheels or you want an insider's view to Lismore, you know who to call. I'm used to being the one giving tours, so this felt a bit weird, but then I wouldn't want to take my car down onto the beach at Port Ramsay anyway. These whitewashed cottages are about as peaceful as you can imagine, with common grazing out the back for these miniature Highland coos. Or hairy coos, if you like. Now, I know it doesn't look like it, but this is the Cathedral of Argyll. Well, it was the Cathedral of Argyll. It was where the medieval cathedral stood, and parts of it are still obvious, built into the modern parish church. I say modern. You know what I mean. Now, it's dedicated to Saint Moluag, and Saint Moluag is incredibly important to Lismore. He is integral. The story of Lismore is the story of Saint Moluag, I think. Now he set up an early religious site here in the 6th century, so that's the same time, roughly the same time as Columba was doing his thing on Iona. And in fact it's said that the two of them fought over Lismore. They fought over who would have this island to build their little church, and they were racing. It was going to be the first man to touch ground in Lismore would have it. And they were racing, neck and neck, and right towards the end, Saint Moluag saw that he was going to lose to Columba, so he cut his finger off and he threw it, and it landed on Lismore before Columba's boat could get there. And there we are, the rest is history. This is the grave of Lord Elphinstone. Died tragically young, 38 years old. And while his body is buried here beneath these snowdrops, it's said that his spirit haunts a rock away back the other end of the island, not the other end, but further north from here. I haven't seen it. I heard this story from Iris, the Explore Lismore, and she told me that he is the Bochan, I think she said. Ghostly, a bogle, I would call it, the Bochan. Something to scare wee kids with. They come and get you in the night. Maybe more. Who knows? Anyway, I'm not messing with them. Now, when this was still the actual cathedral, the Catholic Cathedral of Argyll, and the bishop was in charge here, the building was much bigger than this. This is just the tip of it, the eastern tip. Eastern? Yeah. Northern, whatever. Anyway, this was just the end of it. It stretched way down there. Probably about 2 or 3 times as long. I think you can still see parts of where the building stretched. Now we're inside, it's very obvious which parts are from the medieval cathedral. This is the head of the bishop. I think Iris said it was Bishop Martin, possibly. This was the door, once the doorway, that the bishop came through. This is Lismore's collection of West Highland grave slabs. They're quite fantastic. They start off not too impressive on this side, apart from this one, which is said to commemorate Angor Mór, or Gormal as I know him. This is a lady, rather unusual, on these stones, which must have been very important. Here we're getting more typical, the giant sword, big claymores. More of them, some of them. There's amazing knotwork around them, look at that. Look at the size of that sword. Some of them are compensating for something. Here we've got, looks like a hound hunting a deer. Whoever this slab was for, probably a prominent MacDougall. Must have enjoyed the hunt. I saved one of the best places in Lismore for last. Down another track, I'd definitely not take my own car to Castle Coeffin, on the western side of the island. It looks peaceful, but it was so windy you could hardly hear anything I said, so you're probably going to be stuck with this voiceover. Now in the 12th century, Lismore became part of the lands of Somerled. Somerled was a great Gaelic Norse warrior, warlord, became the Lord of the Isles. He deserves a video all of his own, so I'll cover that another time. When he died, his land was split between his 3 sons, Angus, Ranald, and the one that we need to be worrying about just now, Dugald, because from Dugald came the sons of Dugald, the MacDougalls. They're the ones that built this castle, Castle Coeffin. Their power would be broken after they rebelled against King Robert the Bruce, but that's a story for another time. As views from clifftop castles go, This one's pretty special. It's said Castle Coeffin stands on top of an older Viking stronghold, and it was named after one of those previous residents. The story goes that Coeffin was a Norse prince who lived here with his sister Beathale. Sadly, news arrived that Beathale's lover had been killed in battle back in Norway, and she died of a broken heart. The girl was buried near her home, but her spirit couldn't rest. Beathale's voice echoed around Castle Coeffin, pleading with her brother to send her bones to Norway, where she could be with her love forever. Of course, the Norseman immediately had her bones dug up, washed in Saint Moluag's holy well, and shipped over to Norway. However, the wailing and the voices didn't stop. It turned out there was one toe bone that had been dropped in the well and forgotten, but thankfully it was found and reunited with the rest of her remains. Finally, Beathale could rest easy and Castle Coeffin was quiet once again. What a brilliant story to finish my trip around Lismore on, since it was time for me to head back to the ferry and over to Oban after a long day of exploring. Well, that's me now, sitting on the ferry, sailing back to Oban. I hope you enjoyed that wee tour around Lismore. There's more to the island that I didn't get to see. Hopefully I'll be back in the summer months to show you then. But it just goes to show that this seemingly small island has a lot going for it. Anyway, if you enjoyed the video, I'd really appreciate it if you could like it, give it a share, leave me a comment, let me know what you think. Don't forget to subscribe. That's always the important thing, isn't it? So you don't miss the next one. But anyway, until that video then, I hopefully will see you the next time. Cheers.